Dr. Armin Hale had spent years saving lives, but tonight, something felt wrong. The city outside his underground clinic was quiet, too quiet. No sirens. No chaos. Just an unnatural silence that pressed against the walls like a warning. He was about to shut down for the night when suddenly, every machine in the room flickered. The monitors glitched. Lights dimmed. A deep, distorted frequency filled the air, vibrating through his bones. Armin froze, his instincts screaming that this wasn't normal. Then, a voice emerged. Not human. Seeking, medical assistance, priority, royal bloodline. Armin's heart started pounding. What the hell? Before he could react, the space in front of him ripped open. Not like an explosion. Like reality itself was tearing apart. A glowing fracture of blue light split the air, expanding into a swirling portal. The temperature dropped instantly, and the oxygen felt thinner, heavier. And then, something came through. A girl. She collapsed onto the floor, motionless. Armin rushed forward without thinking. Years of training kicked in instantly. As he turned her over, his breath caught in his throat. She looked human. But she wasn't. Her skin shimmered faintly, like stars were glowing beneath it. Her pulse was weak. Her breathing unstable. And from her side, there was a wound. Not normal. It glowed. A pulsing, shifting energy spread from it, like something alive was inside her. Behind her, heavy footsteps echoed. Armin looked up. Figures stepped out of the portal, tall, armored, and completely still. Their eyes locked onto him, cold and unreadable. One of them spoke. "You are a healer." Armin swallowed hard. "I'm a doctor." The figure stepped closer, its presence overwhelming. "Our princess is dying." For a moment, fear gripped him. Aliens. Unknown biology. Something impossible. This wasn't his world. But then he looked back at the girl. She was dying. And that was his world. Armin stood up, his voice steady now. "Put her on the table. Now." The aliens hesitated. Armin's tone sharpened. "If you want her to live, trust me." A tense silence filled the room. Then slowly, they obeyed. As the princess was placed under the surgical light, Armin took a deep breath. He had no idea what she was. No idea how to save her. But one thing was certain. If he failed, this wouldn't just be the death of a patient. It felt like the beginning of something far more dangerous. And far more unstoppable. The moment Dr. Armin Hale began the examination, he realized one thing. This wasn't just difficult. It was impossible. The princess lay under the surgical light, her body glowing faintly as if energy flowed through her veins instead of blood. Every monitor connected to her flickered wildly, displaying symbols and readings Armin couldn't understand. "Her pulse is unstable," he muttered. "But this isn't human biology." One of the armored aliens stepped closer. "Can you save her?" Armin didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was, he didn't know. He reached for a surgical scanner, trying to map her internal structure. But the moment the device touched her skin, a shockwave burst out. The machine flew from his hand, smashing into the wall. The lights flickered violently again. The aliens tensed. "Your tools are harming her," one of them said coldly. "No," Armin replied sharply, eyes locked on the princess. "Something inside her is reacting." That's when he saw it. The wound on her side wasn't just glowing anymore. It was moving. A dark, shifting energy pulsed beneath her skin, spreading slowly like veins made of shadow. It didn't behave like an infection. It wasn't random. It was controlled, alive. Armin's heartbeat quickened. "This isn't a wound," he whispered. It's an invasion. Suddenly. The princess gasped. Her body jerked upward, eyes snapping open. They glowed an intense, cosmic blue, but something about them felt wrong. Unnatural. She grabbed Armin's wrist with surprising strength. For a moment, everything went silent. Then images flooded his mind. Endless space. Burning planets. Massive fleets at war. Creatures made of pure darkness consuming entire worlds. Armin staggered back, breathing heavily. What was that? The princess looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. Help me. And then. Her expression changed. Her eyes darkened. A cold smile formed on her lips. You cannot save her, human. The voice wasn't hers anymore. The room froze. Even the alien stepped back slightly. Armin stared at her, realization hitting him hard. Whatever was inside her was aware. And it was watching him. Learning him. You're not taking her, Armin said quietly, his fear turning into determination. The entity let out a low, distorted laugh. She is already ours. Armin clenched his jaw. Then I'll take her back. He turned off every advanced machine in the room. If technology triggered it, he'd go old school. Grabbing a basic surgical instrument, he stepped forward again, this time with nothing but skill, instinct, and sheer will. Because now he understood. This wasn't just a surgery. It was a fight. And if he lost, it wouldn't just kill the princess. It might open the door to something that should have never reached Earth. The room felt alive. Not with people, but with tension. Dr. Armin Hale tightened his grip on the surgical tool as he stepped closer to the princess. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to stop, but he didn't. He couldn't. Because now he knew. Whatever was inside her, wasn't just killing her. It was waiting. The princess's body trembled under the light. The dark energy beneath her skin spread further now, forming thin, branching lines across her arms and neck, like veins made of shadow. Watching. Learning. Adapting. You should not continue, one of the alien guards warned, his voice heavier now. That entity, it has destroyed entire civilizations. Armin didn't look back. Then it picked the wrong planet. He leaned in closer to the wound. The glow intensified immediately, as if reacting to his presence. The air grew colder. The sound in the room shifted into a low, vibrating hum that made it hard to think. And then. The princess smiled. Slowly. Unnaturally. You are, persistent, the voice said again, echoing from her throat, but it wasn't hers. Armin froze for a split second. Then steadied himself. Yeah, he replied quietly. It's kind of my thing. The entity's presence pressed against his mind, heavier now. He could feel it, probing, testing, trying to understand what he was. A fragile species, it whispered. Short-lived. Weak. Armin exhaled slowly. Maybe, he said. But we don't quit. Without warning, he pushed the tool into the glowing wound. The reaction was instant. The entire room shook violently. Lights shattered. The alien guard stumbled back as a surge of energy exploded outward. But this time, Armin didn't stop. The dark energy lashed out, wrapping around his arm like living lightning. Pain shot through him, sharp and burning, but he forced himself to keep going. Get out of her, he shouted. The entity screamed. Not in control. In resistance. You do not understand what you are touching, it roared. I am beyond your kind. Armin gritted his teeth, pushing deeper despite the pain tearing through his body. Yeah, he growled. Then let me introduce you to something new. Blood dripped from his hand, but he didn't pull away. Because now. The energy wasn't just attacking him. It was retreating. For the first time. It was afraid. And Armin realized something critical. This thing wasn't unbeatable. It had just never been challenged like this before. And now. It was losing. Pain. That was all Dr. Armin Hale could feel now. The dark energy had wrapped itself around his arm, crawling under his skin like fire mixed with ice. Every nerve in his body screamed as if it was being torn apart from the inside. But he didn't stop. He couldn't. Because right in front of him, the princess's pulse was stabilizing. Her vitals are improving, one of the alien guards said, shock clear in his voice. Armin let out a weak breath. Good, that means it's working. But the entity inside her wasn't done. The princess's body suddenly lifted off the table, suspended in the air by an unseen force. The room shook violently, walls cracking as energy surged outward. You dare defy me, the entity roared, its voice now echoing through the entire clinic. Armin dropped to one knee, struggling to stay conscious. Yeah, he said through clenched teeth. I do. The energy pulsed harder, stronger, like it was trying to break him completely. And then. It changed tactics. The darkness suddenly surged out of the princess's body, and into him. Armin's eyes widened. He felt it enter his bloodstream. Cold. Heavy. Alive. The princess fell back onto the table, unconscious, but breathing steadily now. Safe. But Armin collapsed. His veins began to darken, black lines spreading across his skin. His heartbeat became irregular. His vision blurred as the entity settled inside him. The alien guards rushed forward, weapons raised. It has transferred hosts. Terminate him before it stabilizes. Armin barely heard them. Every thought in his mind was fading, drowned out by a growing voice inside him. Stronger than before. You are weaker than her, the entity whispered from within. Your body will not contain me. Armin's hands shook as he tried to push himself up. Maybe, he muttered weakly. But I don't need to contain you. He looked toward the princess one last time. Alive. That was enough. I just needed to get you out of her. The entity laughed, darker and deeper now. Then you have doomed yourself. Armin smiled faintly, even as his body began to fail. Yeah, he whispered. Worth it. The guards hesitated. For a moment, no one moved. Because now they understood. This human had just sacrificed his own life to save someone from another world. And as the darkness spread further through his body, something massive began to happen outside. The sky itself started to change. The sky above Earth was no longer Earth's sky. Massive shadows stretched across the horizon as thousands of alien warships emerged from glowing rifts in space. They weren't just ships. They were a statement. Power. Authority. Judgment. Inside the clinic, the air grew heavier with every passing second. Dr. Armin Hale lay on the ground, his body barely responding now. The dark veins had spread across his chest and neck, pulsing slowly, like something inside him was preparing to be born. The entity had grown quiet. Too quiet. Which made it even more dangerous. He is no longer stable, one of the alien guards said, stepping back cautiously. The host will collapse soon, and when it does, the entity will fully manifest. And if that happens, another asked. The answer came not from them, but from the doorway. Then this world will fall. A new presence filled the room. Heavier. Colder. Absolute. The guards immediately dropped to one knee. The king. Dr. Armin forced his fading eyes open. And there he was. The alien king. He didn't need an introduction. His presence alone bent the air around him, as if reality itself recognized his authority. His armor shimmered with cosmic energy, and his eyes held something ancient, something that had seen entire galaxies rise and fall. His gaze moved instantly to the princess. Alive, for a brief moment. Relief flickered across his face. But then, he looked at Armin. And everything changed. "What has been done?" the king asked, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of destruction. "A human saved her," one guard replied. "But the entity, transferred into him." Silence. The king stepped closer to Armin, studying him. Armin tried to speak, his voice barely a whisper. "Your daughter, she's safe." Before he could finish, his body convulsed violently. The entity surged again. This time, stronger than ever. Armin's back arched as a wave of dark energy exploded outward, cracking the floor beneath him. His eyes flickered between normal and completely black. And then, it spoke. Louder. Clearer. Through him. "You are too late, King." The room froze. The entity's presence filled every corner now, its voice echoing like a storm. "This host is breaking, and when he does, I will rise again." The guards raised their weapons instantly. But they didn't fire. Because they knew. It was already too close. The king's expression hardened. He raised his hand slowly. Energy gathered, immense, overwhelming, enough to erase Armin completely. To destroy the entity. To save Earth. But at a cost. Armin. The human who saved his daughter. The one who stood alone against something ancient, and didn't run. For the first time. The king hesitated. And the entire galaxy waited for his decision. Silence. Heavy. Unforgiving. Final. The alien king stood over Dr. Armin Hale, his hands still raised, power gathering, ready to strike. One move, and everything would end. The entity. The threat. And the human who saved his daughter. Armin's vision was fading. His heart beat slow, uneven. Every breath felt like his last. Yet somehow, he forced a weak smile. "Do it," he whispered. The guards looked at him in shock. The king didn't move. Armin struggled to speak again, his voice breaking. "If I lose control, it won't stop here." A pause. Then softly. "End it, before it spreads." For a moment, even the entity inside him went quiet. As if waiting. Watching. The king's eyes narrowed slightly, studying this fragile human, this being who stood on the edge of death, and still chose to protect others. "You would sacrifice yourself, for a world so small?" the king asked. Armin let out a faint breath. "It's not small, to me." That was enough. Something changed. Slowly, the king lowered his hand. "No." The guard stiffened. "My king, if the entity emerges." "It will not," the king said firmly. And then, he stepped forward. Placing his hand directly over Armin's chest. A surge of golden light exploded outward, filling the entire room. It clashed violently with the darkness inside Armin, light against void, life against destruction. Armin screamed as the energy tore through him. The entity roared in fury. "This is impossible." The king's voice echoed like thunder. "You underestimate the will to protect." The light intensified. For a moment, it looked like Armin would be destroyed completely. But then, the darkness cracked. Shattered. And vanished. Gone. Armin collapsed, gasping for air, alive. The impossible had happened. Days later. Earth was no longer alone. Above the planet, an entire alien fleet hovered silently, visible to every human on the surface. Fear spread at first. Then, a transmission began. The alien king's voice echoed across the globe. People of Earth, your world was moments away from destruction. A pause. But one of your own stood against it. Armin stood beside him, weak, but steady. Confused. The king turned toward him. You saved my daughter, he said. But more than that, you showed us something we had forgotten. The entire galaxy listened. That true strength is not power. It is sacrifice. Then came the reward. From this day forward, Earth is under my protection. Shockwaves spread, not just across Earth, but across the stars. No empire will touch you. No force will threaten you. And any who try. His voice turned cold. Will answer to me. Armin's eyes widened. Humanity, safe. Because of him. Because of one choice. One moment. The king looked at him one last time. You are no longer just human, Doctor. You are the reason your world still exists. Armin smiled quietly. And as the alien fleet slowly disappeared into the stars, one truth remained. Humanity was no longer weak. It was respected.